The workshop smelled of metal and oil. Taemin wiped his hands on a rag and looked at the engine part he was fixing. It belonged to Old Man Byung's farming machine. The work was simple. And that was good. Simple work kept his mind quiet. Outside, the twin suns of New Jeju were setting. Orange light came through the dirty windows. Taemin could hear children playing in the street. Their laughter made him smile. His own daughter would be home from school soon. New Jeju was not a rich world. The buildings were old. The streets had cracks. But it was home. Humans had lived here for 3 generations now. Ever since the Draconis Empire allowed them to settle on this empty planet. The dragons ruled thousands of worlds across the galaxy. They were massive beings, twice the height of a man, covered in scales that could stop bullets. They had wings that could carry them through the sky. They were strong, and proud, and ancient. Humans were none of those things. Humans were small and soft. They had no claws or scales. They could not breathe fire or fly. In the Empire, humans were a minor species. They paid their taxes. They followed the rules. They tried not to cause trouble. The door opened. Hana rushed in, her school bag bouncing on her back. She was 12 years old, with her mother's dark eyes and bright smile. "Papa, I got a good score on my math test," she said. Taemin felt warmth spread through his chest. He opened his arms, and she hugged him, not caring that his shirt was dirty from work. "I am proud of you," he said. "Your mother would be proud too." Hana's smile dimmed a little. She missed her mother. They both did. The sickness had taken her 3 years ago. The dragon doctors could have saved her. But their services cost too much. Taemin had tried to get the money. He had begged and borrowed and sold everything he could. It was not enough. After that, it was just the two of them. Father and daughter against the world. "Can we have noodles for dinner?" Hana asked. "We can have anything you want," Taemin said. His comm device buzzed. He pulled it from his pocket and looked at the screen. It was a message from the colonial administration. An official message. His stomach tightened. Official messages were never good news. "Go start your homework," he told Hana. "I will make dinner soon." She nodded and went to the small living area behind the workshop. Taemin opened the message. The words appeared in glowing letters above his comm device. Notice of selection. Imperial Academy Tribute Program. His hands started to shake. He read further. The Draconis Empire had passed a new decree. Every colony of minor species would send 10 children each year to the Imperial Academy on the capital world. The children would receive education and training. They would serve the Empire. It was an honor, the message said. Taemin knew what it really was. The children would be taken from their families. They would be trained to serve dragon masters. They would forget their homes and their people. Some might return after many years, changed and distant. Most would never come back at all. The message listed 10 names. The 7th name was Hana. Taemin read it 3 times. His daughter's name glowed in the air before him. Hana. Selected. No mistakes. No appeals. Final decision. His legs felt weak. He sat down hard on his work stool. "Papa, are you okay?" Hana's voice came from the other room. He forced himself to breathe. "Yes, I am fine. Just dropped something." His mind was racing. There had to be a way out. There had to be something he could do. He could talk to the colonial administrator. He could offer money. He could beg, but he knew it would not work. The selection was done by the Empire itself. The colonial administration had no power to change it. Money meant nothing to dragons who could take whatever they wanted. Begging would accomplish nothing. The collection ceremony was in 3 days. That night, Taemin made noodles. He watched Hana eat and talk about her day. She told him about her friends and her teachers. She showed him a drawing she made of a bird. She was happy and innocent and safe. For now, he did not tell her about the message. Not yet. He wanted her to have one more night of peace. After she went to bed, Taman sat in the dark workshop. He thought about his wife. What would she tell him to do? She had always been the strong one, the one with answers. He was just a simple engineer. He fixed machines. He was not a fighter or a hero, but he was a father. The next morning, other families received their messages. The colony had only 5,000 humans. Everyone knew everyone. By noon, the whole settlement knew about the selection. Mrs. Hyunki, whose son was selected, wept in the street. Mr. Taejun sat in the market square with his head in his hands, his daughter clinging to him. The parents of the selected children gathered at the community center. Some cried. Some shouted in anger. Some just sat in silence. Broken. Taman went to the meeting. He listened as people talked about what to do. We should refuse, someone said. They will kill us, someone else answered. We should run. Take our children and hide. Hide where? They have ships and soldiers. They will find us. We should beg for mercy. Dragons do not have mercy for minor species. Around and around the arguments went. Fear and anger and desperation filled the room. But no one had an answer. No one had a plan. Taman said nothing. He just listened and watched. That evening, he finally told Hana. They sat together on the old couch in their living area. He held her hand and explained as gently as he could. She was selected. She would go to the Imperial Academy. It was supposed to be an honor. Hana looked at him with wide eyes. I do not want to go, Papa. I know. Will you come with me? They will not allow that. Tears ran down her face. I am scared. Taman pulled her close. She felt so small in his arms, so fragile. I know, little bird. I know. Siyoung, what will we do? She whispered. Taman did not answer right away. He held his daughter and felt her heart beating against his chest. He thought about his wife. He thought about the 3 years since she died, and how he had promised her with his last words to her that he would protect Hana. Always. He had made a promise. Everything will be all right, he said softly. It was a lie. But it was also a decision. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Other families prepared to say goodbye to their children. Some bought new clothes for them to wear at the ceremony. Some made special meals. Everyone coped in their own way with the grief that was coming. Taman went to work. He fixed machines. He talked to customers. He seemed calm. His neighbors thought he was in shock, that he had not accepted reality yet. They whispered about him with pity. They did not know what was happening inside his mind. On the morning of the collection ceremony, Taman dressed Hana in her best clothes. He combed her hair. He made her favorite breakfast. They did not talk much. What was there to say? At noon, they walked together to the central plaza. The whole colony was gathering. Dragon guards stood around the edges, their scales gleaming in the sunlight. Their eyes watched everyone with cold attention. In the center of the plaza stood a platform. On that platform was General Karvoth. Taman had never seen a dragon general before. Karvoth was massive, even for his kind. His scales were deep crimson, like dried blood. His wings were folded against his back, each one large enough to cover a house. His eyes were gold and ancient. He wore armor marked with symbols of battles and victories. He looked like a creature from nightmares. The ceremony began. A dragon official read names from a list. One by one, children walked forward. Their families said goodbye. Some parents could barely stand. Others held their children and would not let go until guards pulled them away. Taman watched it all. He held Hana's hand and waited. Then he heard her name, Hana, daughter of Taman. The crowd grew quiet. Eyes turned to them. Taman squeezed his daughter's hand. Stay close to me. They walked forward together. But when they reached the middle of the plaza, halfway to the platform, Taman stopped. He did not let go of Hana's hand. He did not move forward. He just stood there. General Karvoth's golden eyes focused on him. The dragon's voice was deep and powerful. "Human, bring the child forward." Taman looked up at the massive general. He looked at the guards. He looked at the platform where his daughter was supposed to go. Then he looked down at Hana. She was terrified. She trusted him to protect her. She always had. He had made a promise. Taman straightened his back. He kept holding his daughter's hand, and he spoke one word. No. The plaza became silent. 5,000 people held their breath. The only sound was the wind moving through the settlement. General Karvoth stared down at Taman. The human stood there with his daughter's hand in his, looking small and fragile before the massive dragon warrior. It should have been like an ant facing a mountain. But Taman did not move. He did not look away. "What did you say?" the general asked. His voice was quiet now, more dangerous than when he shouted. "I said no," Taman repeated. His voice shook a little, but the word was clear. "You cannot take my daughter." A ripple went through the crowd. People gasped. Some stepped back as if expecting an explosion. The dragon guards moved forward, hands on their weapons. General Karvoth raised one clawed hand. The guards stopped. He studied the human before him with those ancient golden eyes. "You do not understand what you are doing, human," the general said. "This is imperial law. The selection is final. If you refuse, there will be consequences." "I understand," Taman said. He pulled Hana slightly behind him, putting his body between her and the general. "But my answer is still no, Papa," Hana whispered. She was crying. She gripped his hand so tight, it hurt. Karvoth's eyes narrowed. "The consequences will be severe. Not just for you, for your whole colony. Is your defiance worth the suffering of thousands?" It was a threat. A clear one. If Taman continued to refuse, the Empire would punish everyone on New Jeju. They would make an example. Other colonies would hear about it and learn to obey without question. Taman felt fear twist in his stomach. He thought of his neighbors, his friends, the children playing in the streets. All of them could suffer because of him, but then he felt Hana's hand in his. He remembered her mother. He remembered the promise he made. "My daughter is my whole world," he said. "If you want her, you will have to go through me." It was not a warrior's challenge. Taman had no weapons. He had no strength to fight a dragon. Everyone knew what would happen if the general decided to simply remove him. One sweep of those massive claws and Taman would die. But that was the point. The general would have to kill him. In front of everyone. In front of Hana. There would be no pretending this was civilized or honorable. The Empire would have to show its true face. General Karvoth took a step forward. His footstep made the ground tremble. He was so large that his shadow covered both Taman and Hana completely. "You are brave, human," the general said, "or foolish. I have not decided which." "Does it matter?" Taman asked. The general moved closer. He could reach out and grab the human now if he wanted. His claws were like knives. His strength could crush stone. One moment was all it would take. Taman did not run. He did not beg. He just stood there, protecting his daughter with nothing but his presence. And something strange happened. General Karvoth stopped. He stared at the human with an expression that might have been confusion or recognition. Something in the human's eyes made the ancient warrior pause. The general had seen many brave beings in his long life. He had fought in hundreds of battles across dozens of worlds. He had seen soldiers charge against impossible odds. He had seen warriors fight until their last breath. But this was different. This was not a soldier seeking glory. This was not a warrior accepting death with honor. This was a father standing between danger and his child, with nothing but love and determination as his shield. Karvoth's mind went to another time, another place, a battlefield 50 years ago. The memory came unbidden, but powerful. It was during the Outer Reaches War. Karvoth had been younger then, but already a respected commander. His battalion had been sent to secure a moon at the edge of Empire space. The mission should have been simple. Then the Krish came. The Krish were an insectoid species, nightmares made flesh. They swarmed over prey in massive numbers, tearing and biting and killing with mindless hunger. They did not negotiate. They did not retreat. They just attacked until nothing was left alive. Karvoth's battalion was trapped. 300 dragon warriors against 15,000 Krish. The numbers were impossible. The dragons fought well, their strength and skill worth much, but the Krish just kept coming. Wave after wave after wave. The dragons prepared to die with honor. Then the human relief force arrived. Just one battalion, 300 soldiers. They came in old ships that barely held together. Their weapons were simple. Their armor was thin. They looked like nothing next to the mighty dragons. The dragons did not expect much help from them. They were wrong. Karvoth remembered watching the humans deploy. They did not boast. They did not make speeches. They just checked their weapons, looked at each other, and nodded. Then they walked into hell. The battle lasted 3 days. The Krish poured out of caves in the moon's surface like a flood. The dragons fought from defensive positions, using their strength and fire to hold the line. The humans fought in the gaps, moving where they were needed most. When human soldiers ran out of bullets, they used blades. When blades broke, they used rocks and metal pieces. When they had nothing else, they used their hands and feet and teeth. They fought like demons, protecting their comrades and the dragons beside them. Karvoth had never seen anything like it. These small, fragile beings threw themselves at monsters twice their size. They died in terrible ways, but they did not stop. They did not break. They just kept fighting. On the second day, a Krish hunter caught Karvoth by surprise. He was tired. His scales cracked from constant fighting. The creature leaped from above. Claws aimed at his throat. A human sergeant tackled him aside. The Krish claws meant for Karvoth's throat tore into the human's back instead. The sergeant screamed but grabbed the creature, holding it while Karvoth killed it with his fire. The sergeant's name was Daehyun. He was bleeding badly. His back was torn open. He would not survive. Karvoth knelt beside him. "Why did you do that?" the general asked. "Why sacrifice yourself for me? Why sacrifice yourself for me?" Daehyun smiled through his pain. "My squad needs you. General, you keep them alive. That is enough reason." "I do not understand," Karvoth said. "We are not your people. We are not even your species. Why do humans fight so hard for others?" Daehyun's eyes were getting dim. "Because someone has to. And we are here, so it might as well be us." He coughed blood. "Promise me something, General. Anything. My squad. The ones who survive. Remember their names. Tell them. Tell them. I was proud to fight with them." "I promise," Karvoth said. Daehyun died with that smile still on his face. The battle ended on the third day. The Krish were finally driven back into their caves. 37 humans survived. Karvoth kept his promise. He learned all their names. He stood at their memorial service. He listened to their stories. One soldier told him something that stayed with him forever. "We humans do not fight because we are strong. We fight because we love. We love our friends, our families, our comrades. Love makes us stronger than our bodies. Love makes us braver than our fear." Karvoth had thought he understood then. But over the years, he had forgotten. He had gone back to seeing humans as just another minor species, small and weak and unimportant, until now. Standing in this plaza, looking at this father protecting his daughter, the memory came back with full force. The general looked at Taemin again. Really looked at him. He saw past the dirty work clothes and the trembling hands. He saw past the fear in the human's eyes. He saw the same quality he had seen in Sergeant Daehyun's eyes. The same quality he had seen in all those human soldiers. Love worth dying for. The plaza was still silent. Everyone waited to see what the general would do. Would he kill this defiant human? Would he take the child by force? Would he punish the whole colony? General Karvoth made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He lowered his massive head. In dragon culture, lowering one's head was a gesture of deep respect. It was reserved for equals, for honored warriors, for those who had earned recognition through great deeds. No dragon had ever lowered his head to a human before. The crowd gasped. The dragon guards looked confused. Even Taemin stared in shock. "Tell me, human," General Karvoth said, his head still lowered. "What is your name?" "Taemin," he answered quietly. "Taemin," the general repeated. "Tell me why you defy the Empire. I want to hear it from you." Taemin swallowed. His throat was dry. "Because she is my daughter," he said. "She is all I have left of my wife. She is my reason for living. I would rather die than let her go into the darkness alone. I would rather the whole galaxy burn than see her hurt." "You know you cannot win," the general said. "Yes," Taemin said, "but you would have to kill me first. And Hana would see it. She would remember. Is that the empire you serve? One that murders fathers in front of their children?" Karvoth raised his head. He looked at the crowd. He looked at the other dragon guards. He looked at the children who had already been taken from their families, standing confused on the platform. Then he looked back at Taemin and Hana. And General Karvoth, hero of the Outer Reaches War, commander of the Crimson Scale clan, made a choice that would change everything. General Karvoth stood in the plaza and felt the weight of centuries pressing down on him. He was 217 years old. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had fought in wars that reshaped entire sectors of space. He had killed more enemies than he could count. But standing before this human father and his daughter, he felt something he had not felt in decades. He felt shame. The memory of the Outer Reaches War burned in his mind now. It would not leave him alone. Sergeant Daehyun's face was as clear as if the human had died yesterday, instead of 50 years ago. The general closed his golden eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he knew what he had to do. "Everyone will remain silent," he announced, his voice carrying across the plaza with command that made even the other dragons straighten. "I will speak, and you will listen." The crowd obeyed. Even Taemin stayed quiet, though he kept Hana close behind him. Karvoth turned to address not just the humans, but his own guards as well. "I am going to tell you a story," he said. "It is a story about humans, about what I learned from them, and about what I have forgotten until this very moment." The dragon guards exchanged confused looks. The humans in the crowd whispered to each other. This was not what anyone expected. 50 years ago, the general began. "I was a commander in the Outer Reaches War. My battalion was sent to secure a moon called Viridian 7. Intelligence said it was empty, except for some old mining tunnels. We were supposed to establish a forward base and then move on." He paused, remembering. Intelligence was wrong. The Krish swarm had nested in those tunnels. Thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands. They poured out like a flood when we arrived. Some of the older humans in the crowd nodded. They had heard stories about the Krish. Nightmare creatures that killed without mercy or reason. 300 dragons against an army of monsters, Karvoth continued. We fought well. We killed many. But there were too many. For every Krish we killed, 5 more appeared. We were surrounded. We were tired. We were going to die. The general's voice grew softer. Then the human relief force arrived. 1 battalion, 300 soldiers. They came in ships that were barely functional. Their weapons were old. Their armor was thin. When I saw them, I thought they were fools. I thought they would die in the first hour. He looked directly at Taman. I was wrong. Those humans fought like nothing I had ever seen. They did not fight for glory. They did not fight for honor or reputation. They fought because their comrades needed them, because we needed them, and they would not let us die alone. The dragon guards were listening carefully now. Some of them had heard rumors about the Outer Reaches war, about the humans who fought there, but they had never heard their general speak of it. On the second day of battle, Karvoth said, a Krish hunter nearly killed me. I was exhausted. I made a mistake. The creature should have torn out my throat. He paused. The memory was still painful after all these years. A human sergeant named Daehyun saved my life. He threw himself in front of the Krish. He took the claws meant for me. His back was ripped open. He was dying. And do you know what he said to me? Af? No one answered. They just waited. He smiled, Karvoth said. And there was wonder in his voice. He was dying in agony. And he smiled. He told me his squad needed me to keep them alive. That was enough reason for him to die. Then he asked me to remember the names of his soldiers, to tell them he was proud. The general's massive hands clenched into fists. I made him a promise. I learned all their names. 37 humans survived that battle. I knew every one of them. Their names, their stories, their families. He looked around at all the faces watching him. One of them told me something I have never forgotten, even though I stopped understanding it. He said humans do not fight because they are strong. They fight because they love. Love makes them stronger than their bodies. Love makes them braver than their fear. Karvoth turned back to Taman and Hana. I thought I understood what that meant. But I did not. Not really. I saw humans as brave soldiers, good fighters, useful allies, but I forgot what made them that way. He took a step closer to Taman. The human did not back away. Looking at you now, the general said, standing there with nothing but your body between danger and your daughter, I finally understand. You are not a soldier. You have no training, no weapons, no strength to match mine. By every measure, you should be nothing to me. Taman said nothing. He just kept his eyes on the general and his hand on Hana. But you are not nothing, Karvoth said. You are what made those human soldiers fight so hard. You are what made Sergeant Daehyun smile as he died. You are a father protecting his child, and that love, that desperate, fierce, unbreakable love, is the source of human strength. The general's voice grew louder. The Empire has made a mistake. This tribute decree treats humans as resources, as tools to be taken and used. But you cannot take love. You cannot command it. You cannot buy it, or steal it, or force it to serve you. He looked at the other dragon guards. If we take these children, we do not gain loyal servants. We gain enemies. We gain parents who will never forgive us. We gain a whole species that will remember we ripped their families apart. One of the guards stepped forward. General, the decree comes from the Imperial Senate. We must obey. No, Karvoth said flatly. The Senate made this decree without understanding humans, without remembering what they did for us in the war, without honoring the debt we owe them. He spread his wings wide, a gesture of declaration. I am General Karvoth of the Crimson Scale clan. I have fought in 40 campaigns. I have earned my honors through blood and fire, and I say this decree is wrong. The crowd erupted. Humans began shouting questions. Dragon guards argued with each other. The whole plaza descended into chaos. Karvoth roared. The sound was like thunder. It echoed off the buildings and shook the ground. Everyone fell silent again. Afterside, 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 I will not enforce this decree on New Jeju, the general announced. Taman could not believe what he was hearing. "You cannot do that," he said. "You will be punished." "Perhaps," Karvoth agreed. "But I made a promise to a dying human soldier 50 years ago. I promised to honor his sacrifice. I have failed to keep that promise. I have let myself forget what humans taught me. But I will not fail again." The general pulled out a communication device. He activated it, and his voice was broadcast not just across the plaza, but across the entire sector. Any ship, any station, anyone listening would hear what he said next. "This is General Karvoth of the Crimson Scale Clan, commander of the garrison forces in Sector 7. I am officially suspending the Imperial Tribute Decree on New Jeju. Furthermore, I am requesting an immediate review of this decree by the Imperial Senate. I am transmitting my full report on the human contribution to the Outer Reaches War, which has been classified for too long. The Senate will hear the truth about human courage and sacrifice before any more children are taken." He looked directly at the communication device. "I fought beside humans. I owe them my life. The Empire owes them respect, not exploitation. If the Senate wishes to punish me for this decision, I will accept that punishment. But I will not betray the memory of those who died protecting me." Karvoth ended the transmission. The plaza was silent again. But this time, it was a different kind of silence. It was the silence of shock and hope. The general turned to the other children standing on the platform. "Go back to your families," he told them. "Go home. Go home." They hesitated, unsure if this was real. Then one child ran down from the platform and into her mother's arms. Then, another. Then, all of them. Parents rushed forward, crying and laughing, pulling their children close. Taman stood frozen. Hana was still behind him, gripping his hand. He could not quite process what had just happened. General Karvoth knelt down. Even kneeling, he was taller than Taman. His massive form lowered, until his eyes were level with the human's eyes. "Thank you," the general said quietly. "For what?" Taman asked. His voice shook. "Exactly," Karvoth said. "You reminded me what matters. You reminded me what makes humans valuable. Not as soldiers or workers, but as beings who love with everything they have." He looked at Hana, who peeked out from behind her father. Hana nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. The general stood. He addressed his guards. "We will remain on New Jeju until the Senate responds. You will treat these humans with the respect they deserve. Anyone who has a problem with my orders can file a formal complaint." None of the guards moved. They looked uncertain, but none of them challenged him. Karvoth walked back to his ship, leaving the plaza behind. His mind was already working on what would come next. The Senate would be furious. His enemies would use this against him. There would be consequences. But for the first time in 50 years, he felt like he was honoring the promise he made to Sergeant Dae-hyun. He was remembering what humans had taught him about courage and love and sacrifice. In the plaza, Taman finally let himself breathe. His legs gave out, and he sat down hard on the ground. Hana knelt beside him, hugging him tight. "Papa, are we safe?" she whispered. Taman looked around at the other families reuniting. He looked at the sky where the general's ship sat. He thought about what just happened, about a dragon general defying the Empire for the sake of human children. "I think so," he said. For now. But he knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The general had started something that could not be stopped. The Empire would have to respond. Other colonies would hear about this. Everything was about to change. All because one father refused to let them take his daughter, and one general remembered what humans had taught him about love. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within hours, every human colony knew what happened on New Jeju. Within days, the entire Empire knew that General Karvoth had defied the Imperial Senate. The response was chaos. On the capital world of Draconis Prime, the Senate chamber erupted into arguments. Some senators demanded Karvoth be arrested immediately. Others called him a traitor. A few stayed quiet, remembering the Outer Reaches War and the humans who fought there. Senator Vexus of the Golden Wing clan was the loudest voice against Karvoth. He stood before the assembled Senate with his wings spread wide, a gesture of accusation. "This general has betrayed the Empire," Vexus declared. "He has made us look weak. If we allow one colony to refuse the decree, others will follow. We must make an example of him and of New Jeju." But Senator Mordak, an old warrior with scarred scales, stood to counter him. "General Karvoth is a hero of the Empire. He has fought in more battles than most of us have seen sunrises. Perhaps we should listen to what he has to say before we condemn him." The argument raged for 3 days. Messages flooded in from across the Empire. Military commanders who had fought beside humans spoke in Karvoth's defense. Colonial governors worried about rebellion. Political rivals saw an opportunity to destroy a decorated general. On New Jeju, life continued, but nothing felt normal. Taemin went back to his workshop, but he could not focus on work. Other parents came to thank him. They called him brave. They called him a hero. He did not feel like either. He felt like a man who got lucky, and who knew the luck might run out. General Karvoth remained on the planet with his garrison. He sent daily reports to the Senate, detailing the history of human military service. He included records from the Outer Reaches War that had been buried in classified files. He listed every battle where humans fought beside dragons. He named every human soldier who died, protecting the Empire. One evening, Karvoth came to Taemin's workshop. His massive form barely fit through the door. Hana was doing homework at the small table. She looked up with wide eyes as the dragon general entered. "I am sorry to disturb you," Karvoth said. His voice was gentler than it had been in the plaza. "I wanted to speak with you, Taemin." Taemin set down the tool he was holding. "What about? About what comes next?" the general said. He looked at Hana. "Perhaps the child should not hear this." "She stays," Taemin said firmly. "Whatever happens affects her. She deserves to know." Karvoth nodded, respecting the decision. He carefully lowered himself to sit on the floor, trying to take up less space. Even sitting, his head nearly touched the ceiling. "The Senate will make a decision soon," he said. "They will either support my actions or punish me for them. If they choose punishment, I will accept it. But I want you to understand something." "What?" Taemin asked. "If they punish me, they will try to enforce the decree again. They will want to prove they still have power. When that happens, you and Hana will be the first ones they target. They will make an example of you." Taemin felt cold fear in his stomach. Hana's hand found his. "I am not trying to frighten you," Karvoth continued. "I am trying to prepare you. If the worst happens, I have arranged for a ship. It will take you and any other families who want to leave to a colony outside Empire space." "Run away?" Taemin asked. "Leave our home?" "If necessary," the general said. "I have caused this problem. I will not let you suffer for it." Hana spoke up suddenly. "Will you come with us?" Karvoth looked at the child with surprise. "No, little one. I must face the consequences of my choices. I am a soldier. I do not run." "That is not fair," Hana said. "You were helping us. You should not be punished for being good." The general's expression softened. "The world is not always fair. But that does not mean we stop trying to do what is right." Over the next week, tension built across the Empire. Other human colonies began to organize. They held meetings. They talked about refusing the decree if it was enforced again. They talked about Taemin and Hana and the general who stood up for them. The Empire had a problem. If they punished Karvoth too harshly, they might spark a real rebellion. But if they did nothing, they would look weak. Then something unexpected happened. Veterans started speaking out. Not just dragon veterans, but beings from dozens of species who had fought in various wars alongside humans. They sent messages to the Senate. They gave interviews to news services. They all said the same thing. Humans were valuable allies, not resources to exploit. An old dragon warrior named Scarith, who had lost his wings in battle and been carried to safety by human soldiers, made a public statement that went viral across the Empire. "I owe my life to humans," Scarith said. "They could have left me to die. They could have saved themselves. Instead, 3 of them carried me for 2 miles through enemy territory. 2 of those humans died getting me to safety. And now we repay that sacrifice by stealing their children? I am ashamed." More voices joined. The pressure on the Senate grew. On New Jeju, Taemin watched the news feeds with disbelief. He had not meant to start any of this. He just wanted to protect his daughter. Now the whole empire was arguing about human rights and loyalty and honor. "Papa, are we in trouble?" Hana asked one night. "I do not know," Taemin admitted. "But whatever happens, we will face it together." Finally, after 2 weeks of debate, the Senate called for a vote. General Karvoth was summoned to appear before them. He left New Jeju on his ship, not knowing if he would return. Taemin and thousands of others watched the Senate proceedings on broadcast. They saw Karvoth enter the great chamber, his crimson scales gleaming under the lights. He stood alone before hundreds of senators. Senator Vexus spoke first, listing charges: insubordination, defiance of imperial decree, inciting potential rebellion. Then Karvoth was allowed to speak. "I do not deny the charges," the general said. His voice carried across the chamber with calm dignity. "I did defy the decree. I did so because it was wrong." "You do not have the authority to decide what is wrong," Vexus snapped. "Then who does?" Karvoth asked. "The Senate? You made this decree without consulting military leaders, without considering the humans who have bled for this empire, without honoring those who died protecting us." He looked around at all the senators. "I am 217 years old. I have served the empire for most of that time. I have fought in wars you read about in history files. And I tell you this: the empire's strength does not come from fear. It comes from loyalty, from respect, from treating our allies as equals, not as servants." "Humans are a minor species," another senator argued. "They do not have the same status as dragons." "Status is not the same as worth," Karvoth countered. "Humans may be small, but their courage is vast. Their loyalty is unbreakable, when earned, and their love for their families is so powerful that a single father stood before me, ready to die, and made me remember what I had forgotten." He gestured to the viewing screens where Taemin's face could be seen. "That human is not a warrior. He is not a politician. He is a father. And he showed more courage in one moment than many soldiers show in a lifetime. He reminded me that love is strength, that protecting those we care about is the highest honor." The general lowered his head, the gesture of deep respect. "If you must punish someone, punish me. But do not punish New Jeju. Do not punish the humans who have served us well. And do not enforce a decree that dishonors the memory of those who died fighting beside us." The Senate chamber fell silent. Senators looked at each other. Some seemed moved. Others seemed angry. The vote was called. On New Jeju, Taemin held Hana's hand as they watched. His heart pounded. Everything depended on this moment. The votes appeared on the screen one by one. It was close. Very close. But when the final count appeared, there was a majority. The tribute decree was suspended pending further review. General Karvoth would receive a formal reprimand for insubordination, but no other punishment, and a new committee would be formed to discuss human status within the empire. It was not everything, but it was something. It was a beginning. In the Senate chamber, Karvoth bowed to the assembly. He had won, but he knew the fight was not over. On New Jeju, the plaza filled with celebrating humans. They cheered and cried and hugged each other. Their children were safe. For now, Taemin sat in his workshop with Hana in his lap. He felt exhausted, overwhelmed, grateful. "We did it, Papa," Hana said. "No. Taman said softly. The general did it. He listened when he could have just taken you. He chose honor over obedience. Will he be okay? Hana asked. I think so, Taman said. He is strong. And he has friends. What Taman did not say was that he knew this was only the beginning. The decree was suspended, not cancelled. The empire was changing. But change was slow and dangerous. There would be more fights ahead. But tonight, his daughter was safe. Tonight, they could rest. And somewhere in the galaxy, a dragon general who remembered his promise to a dying human soldier allowed himself to feel something he had not felt in years: pride. 6 months passed after the Senate vote. The galaxy was still talking about what happened on New Jeju. Some called it the beginning of a new age. Others called it a dangerous precedent. Everyone agreed that things had changed. General Karvoth returned to New Jeju, but not as a garrison commander. The Senate appointed him as a special liaison between the Empire and human colonies. It was partly an honor, and partly a way to keep him busy and away from military command. His enemies in the Senate still wanted him removed, but his supporters had grown stronger. The general took his new role seriously. He visited human colonies across the sector. He listened to their concerns. He learned their stories. And he began to understand that what happened with Taman was not unique. There were thousands of fathers and mothers, just like him, loving their children with fierce devotion. On New Jeju, life slowly returned to normal. Taman went back to fixing machines. Hana went back to school. But nothing felt quite the same. People looked at Taman differently now. They saw him as the man who stood up to a dragon general and won. Taman did not like the attention. He was not comfortable being a symbol. He just wanted to be left alone with his daughter. But the galaxy had other plans. Representatives from other human colonies started contacting him. They wanted him to speak at gatherings. They wanted him to join committees. They wanted him to be a voice for human rights in the Empire. I am just an engineer, Taman told them. I am not a politician. I am not a leader. But one representative, an older woman named Unji from a nearby colony, was persistent. She came to his workshop one afternoon and would not leave until he listened. You do not understand what you did, she said. You showed the Empire that we are not afraid, that we will protect our families no matter the cost. That means everything to people like me who have been bowing and scraping for decades. I was just protecting my daughter, Taman said. Exactly, Unji replied. That is what makes it powerful. You were not trying to be a hero. You were just being a father. Every parent understands that. That is why your story matters. Taman thought about it for a long time. Finally, he agreed to do one thing. He would make a recorded statement that could be shared across the colonies. Nothing more. The recording was simple. Taman sat in his workshop with Hana beside him. He spoke plainly, without fancy words or dramatic gestures. My name is Taman, he said to the camera. I am a father and an engineer. 6 months ago, I refused to let the Empire take my daughter. I did not do it to be brave. I did not do it to start a movement. I did it because she is my daughter, and I love her more than I fear death. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Some people want to make me a symbol. They want me to lead something. But I am not a leader. I am just a man who loves his child. Every parent here understands that feeling. It is not special. It is not heroic. It is just love. Hana leaned against him, and he put his arm around her. What I want to say is this. Love is universal. Every being who has ever cared for someone understands it. That dragon general, he understood it. He remembered humans who died protecting him because they loved their comrades. He chose to honor that memory. Taman looked directly at the camera. We do not need to fight the Empire. We just need to remind them that we are not resources or tools. We are parents and children. We are families. We are beings who love. And that deserves respect. The recording spread across every human colony. Millions watched it. Many cried. It became the most viewed message in human colonial history. But more importantly, it reached beyond humans. Other species saw it too. Many of them had similar stories. Many of them had watched their children taken or their families broken by imperial policies. Taemin's simple words resonated across species barriers. A movement began. Not a violent rebellion, but a quiet insistence on dignity. Colonies started pushing back against unfair policies. They quoted Taemin's words. They invoked General Karvoth's decision. They demanded to be treated as people, not property. The Empire could not ignore it anymore. The committee reviewing human status issued its report. It recommended sweeping changes. Humans would be granted full citizen rights. Their colonies would have representation in regional councils. Family units would be protected by law. The tribute decree was officially cancelled. Not just suspended. It was more than anyone expected. But it was not the end of the story. Senator Vexus and his allies tried to block the recommendations. They argued that giving humans too much power would destabilize the empire. They warned of rebellion and chaos. The debate raged for months. During that time, something else happened. Humans and dragons began working together more closely. Joint military training exercises showed that humans could keep up with dragons in different ways. Human engineers solved problems that had stumped dragon scientists. Human doctors developed treatments that saved dragon lives. Slowly, respect grew. Not everywhere, and not with everyone, but enough to matter. General Karvoth traveled tirelessly, speaking at military bases and government facilities. He told the story of Sergeant Daehyun over and over. He showed records of human bravery in battle. He argued that the Empire was stronger with humans as partners than as servants. 1 year after the incident in New Jeju, the Senate finally voted on the committee recommendations. This time, the vote was not close. The changes passed by a wide margin. Humans were granted full citizenship in the Empire. The news reached New Jeju during the evening. The whole colony gathered in the plaza. The same plaza where Taemin had made his stand. They watched the announcement together, hardly daring to believe it was real. When the vote total appeared, showing the clear majority, the plaza erupted in celebration. People hugged and cried and shouted with joy. Children who had been on the selection list danced with their parents. Old grudges were forgotten in the moment of shared triumph. Taemin stood at the edge of the crowd with Hana. He watched the celebration, but felt distant from it. He was happy, of course. His daughter was safe. His people had won something precious. But he also felt the weight of everything that happened. "Papa, why are you not celebrating?" Hana asked. "I am celebrating," he said, just quietly. General Karvoth found them there. He had come to New Jeju for the announcement. The massive dragon approached the father and daughter, and the crowd parted respectfully. "You did it," Taemin said to him. "We did it," Karvoth corrected. "You started this. I just remembered what I should never have forgotten." The general knelt down to be closer to their height. He pulled something from a pouch on his belt. It was a small stone, polished, smooth, with writing carved into it. "This is for you," Karvoth said, offering it to Taemin. "It is a memory stone from my clan. We use them to honor those who teach us important lessons." Taemin took the stone carefully. The writing was in the dragon language, but Karvoth translated. It says, "In memory of Sergeant Daehyun and all humans who taught us that love is strength." Given to Taemin, the father who reminded us. Tears came to Taemin's eyes. He tried to speak but could not find words. Hannah spoke instead. "Thank you for helping my papa. Thank you for remembering." Karvoth looked at the young girl with gentle eyes. "No, little one. Thank you for having a father brave enough to stand before a dragon. You taught me something too." "What did I teach you?" Hannah asked, curious. "You taught me what is worth protecting," the general said. Not empires or laws or power, but moments like this. A father and daughter, safe together, with hope for tomorrow. He stood and addressed the crowd that had gathered around them. Today is a victory, but it is just the beginning. There will be challenges ahead. Not everyone in the Empire accepts these changes. Some will resist. Some will try to undo what we have accomplished. The crowd grew quiet, listening. But I want you to remember something, Carvoth continued. Change does not happen because of grand battles or mighty warriors. It happens because ordinary people refuse to accept injustice. It happens because a father loves his daughter enough to say no. It happens because we choose to see each other as equals, regardless of our differences. He looked back at Taemin. This engineer, this simple father, did more to change the Empire than 1,000 battles could have done. He reminded us what matters. He reminded me of my promise to a friend who died 50 years ago. And he showed us all that courage is not about being fearless. It is about loving something more than you fear the consequences. The crowd cheered. Taemin felt embarrassed by the attention, but Hana hugged him tight and whispered, "I am proud of you, Papa." That made everything worth it. The celebration continued late into the night. At some point, someone started playing music. People danced. Children chased each other between the legs of dragons who had stayed to join the party. Old barriers broke down in the joy of the moment. Taemin and Hana slipped away eventually, walking home through the quiet streets. The workshop was dark and familiar. Safe. "Papa, what happens now?" Hana asked as he tucked her into bed. "Now we live," Taemin said. "We work and play and learn. We have a future again. Will things really be different?" "I think so," he said honestly. "Not perfect. There will still be problems. But different. Better." Hana yawned, tired from the excitement. "I love you, Papa. I love you too, little bird. More than all the stars in the sky." He sat with her until she fell asleep, then went to his workshop. He held the memory stone General Carvoth had given him. In the dim light, he thought about everything that happened, about his wife, who he still missed every day, about the moment in the plaza when he thought he would die, about the dragon general who chose honor over orders, about how one moment of desperate love had somehow changed the galaxy. Taemin did not feel like a hero. He just felt grateful. Grateful that Hana was safe. Grateful that other children would not be taken from their families. Grateful that someone as powerful as General Carvoth had chosen to listen. Outside, the twin suns of New Jeju began to rise. A new day was beginning. For the first time in a long time, Taemin looked at that new day with hope instead of fear. He set the memory stone on a shelf where he could see it while he worked. Then he picked up his tools and got ready to start the day. There were machines to fix, customers to help, a normal, ordinary life to live. And that, Taemin thought, was the greatest victory of all. Not glory or fame or power, just the simple right to live peacefully with the people you love. He heard Hana moving in the other room, getting ready for school. "Papa?" she called. "Can we have noodles again tonight?" "We can have anything you want," he called back. And he meant it. Because today, tomorrow, and all the days after, his daughter was home. She was safe. She was his whole world. And sometimes, that is enough to change everything.